You are 60 feet underwater with a full air tank and perfectly functioning equipment. Yet search and rescue teams repeatedly find experienced scuba divers drowned in these exact conditions. In their final moments, they reached up and inexplicably decided to rip the regulator right out of their own mouths. The same anomaly appears in the sky. An F-18 pilot on approach to an aircraft carrier ignores flashing visual alarms and tunes out the landing signal officer shouting in his ear, only to fly a multi-million-dollar jet directly into the stern of the ship. We generally operate on a core assumption that we are rational creatures. We believe our survival depends on cold logic, extensive training, and objective decision-making. But if survival relies on pure reason, why do highly trained individuals consistently make split-second decisions that contradict their training and end their lives? The biological reality is that logic is your brain's secondary system. In a crisis, your physical actions are hijacked by a faster, older, and entirely unconscious physiological network. Understanding these fatal errors requires us to look past the illusion of reason and map the literal, split-second pathway of a crisis traveling through the human brain. When encountering an external threat, sensory information enters the body, hitting the thalamus, the primary relay station. From here, the signal splits. A high-speed warning shoots straight into the amygdala. Milliseconds before realizing what you see, your body prepares for action. Neuroscientists call the mechanism driving this fast track somatic markers, or emotional bookmarks. Throughout your life, your body learns and stores physical memories of risk and reward. In 1911, psychologist Edward Clapperhead proved the power of this system using an amnesic patient with no short-term memory. He concealed a sharp pin in his palm and suddenly pricked her hand during what seemed like a normal, friendly handshake. Minutes later, she forgot the event entirely, but from that day on, she refused to shake his hand. Her fast track had bookmarked the physical avoidance response, even as her conscious mind remained blank. This system drove a group of Canadian snowmobilers who stopped beneath a steep 35-degree slope. Despite recent rain and heavy snowpack, two of the riders suddenly hit their throttles and raced directly up the incline, triggering an enormous slab avalanche. They had been explicitly warned about the avalanche danger that morning, but the logic of an avalanche is a cold abstraction. To these riders, the warning lacked physical weight. No emotional bookmark was attached to the data. What did have a bookmark was the physical memory of the climb. The throaty roar of the engine and the G-force loading in their bodies were intensely bookmarked as massive rewards from previous runs. The snowmobilers didn't rationally choose to ignore the warning. Their unconscious fast track simply read the environment, found the glowing emotional bookmark, and executed the physical action before their logic could intervene. While the amygdala acts, a slower signal travels from the thalamus to the neocortex for logical processing. But this logical brain has incredibly limited bandwidth, a tiny working memory holding a half-dozen items. New data instantly pushes older items out. To save energy and prevent this tiny workspace from overloading, the slow track relies on mental models, stripped-down expectations of reality. We don't process every detail around us. We only perceive what our mental model expects to be there. This creates a dangerous cognitive blind spot. In 1989, elite rock climber Lynn Hill was preparing for a routine ascent in southern France. Tying her rope to her harness, she stopped to answer a question from a nearby climber. That simple distraction overloaded her working memory. The critical task of finishing her knot was bumped out of her consciousness. Trusting her mental model that she was secure, she climbed, leaned back at the top, and fell 72 feet. We see the same failure in expert river guides on the Illinois River. Expecting a standard weekend run, their brains failed to process the anomaly of big trees zooming down a flooded river at 15 miles an hour. They put boats in the water because the danger didn't fit their model of the river. Under extreme stress, this disconnect becomes a biochemical collision. Cortisol floods the brain, actively crippling working memory, while hyper-empowering the amygdala's fast track. When these two tracks collide, emotion completely overpowers reason. This biological response renders experts functionally blind to the reality right in front of them. Evolutionary history favored the emotional fast track because it successfully kept mammals alive for millions of years. Fatal errors occur today because our ancient bookmarks are being triggered in extreme, modern environments they were never designed to navigate. Elite performers succeed by actively managing this emotional track. They do not rely on cold logic to save them, nor do they try to eliminate fear. Consider an aircraft carrier flight deck at dusk. It is a terrifying sensory environment of deafening noise, heaving seas, and massive machines burning jet fuel. F-18 pilots must override their own natural panic responses to execute high-stakes night landings onto that tiny sliver of steel. They achieve this through dark humor, ritual, and play. In the briefing room before a flight, they joke about the risks and tease each other about the absurdity of their situation. This has a specific neurological payoff. Laughter and play send chemical signals that actively inhibit nerves firing in the amygdala. By gentling the emotional horse, they keep the fast track calm, which allows the neocortex to maintain an accurate mental model of reality. Acknowledging our biological limits creates the humility necessary to perceive reality accurately. Technical training and expensive equipment are secondary to the simple act of recognizing that our own biology is constantly trying to override our reason. Survival depends on the deliberate, ongoing alignment of the horse and the jockey. When they run as one, we move from blind reaction into true control.